Chapter 71 of the Plum and the Golden Vase, Chongzhen edition of the Embroidered Portrait. Leaping a stream about the He family and the execution officials' introduction to court rituals. The word says, the flowers are fading, the grass is rusting, the scenery in the guest room is beautiful, and some time has passed. At dusk in the small courtyard, people recall their farewells, and their tears turn into red blood. The mountains and rivers are so close to each other that you and you are separated. Their eyes are broken and their spirits are frightened. The dream is broken at 5 o'clock, and the heart is about to break. The sound of the trumpet blows away the plum blossom moon. It was said that Simon King and He Qianhu came back and walked to the street. He Qianhu invited Simon King to his house for a meal. Simon King insisted again and again. He Qianhu ordered his men to pull the horse's ring and said, "The student has one more thing to discuss with the superior." So they went to the house and dismounted. Bai Xianbai carried the box and went to Chui Zhongshu's house. It turns out that He Qianhu is waiting for a banquet with wine at home. Entering the hall, you can see the beasts burning with charcoal and the golden stove filled with incense. There is a seat in the middle, a seat at the bottom to accompany it, and another seat at the east end next to it. They are all piled with exotic fruits and flowers in golden vases. Simon King asked, "Sir, who are the guests at today's banquet?" He Qianhu said, "My father-in-law is off work today, so I dared to give you a meal, sir." Simon King said, "Sir, it's not the feeling of colleagues to bother you so much." He Qianhu said, "Who said? My father-in-law condescended to drink a cup of wine, sir. Don't blame me." While watching the tea, he ate. Simon King invited his father-in-law to see him, and He Qianhu said, "My father-in-law will come out soon." After a while, Eunuch came out from behind, wearing a green velvet python coat, a crown hat, soap shoes, and a gemstone ribbon ring. Simon King bowed 4 times. "Please, father-in-law, please accept the gift." Superintendent he refused and said, "I can't." Simon King said, "The student is a junior in the same family as Tianquan. My husband has both moral integrity and respect, and he is a member of the middle class. Naturally, it's time to receive the ceremony." After talking for a long time, supervisor he accepted the ceremony and asked Simon King to sit down. He, the chairman, accompanied him, and He Qianhu sat beside him. Simon King said, "My lord, this is definitely not allowed. How can we sit aside among our colleagues? My husband, uncles and nephews are just that. Students can't do it." Eunuch he said happily, "Your Excellency is very aware of etiquette. Come on, I will take the senior position in the pavilion. Just sit down next to me and let the teacher accompany you." Simon King said, "It's okay for the students to sit down." So everyone sat down in their seats. Eunuch he said, "Young boys, let's make some more charcoal. It's very cold today." After a while, he took a bag of fine charcoal ground with water and poured it into the brazier. An oil paper warm curtain was put down in front of the hall, and the sunlight was covering it, making it very bright. Eunuch he said, "My lord, please change your clothes." Simon King said, "The students don't have any clothes inside, so I'll get them at a low price." Eunuch he said, "Don't take them away." Ling left and right took the clothes. "Bring me the flying fish green velvet cloak and put it on with your excellency." Simon King said with a smile, "How can students wear the old gentleman's official clothes?" Eunuch he said, "Your excellency only cares about wearing them. What's the matter? Yesterday, Longlive gave me a python cloak, so I won't wear it anymore, so I'll just give it to you as a covering." After a while, Simon King ordered Diane to take the collar, put on the cloak, and bow to him. He also asked He Qianhu Yaguan to sit on the roof with him. After bringing another dish of tea to eat, Eunuch he said, "Call the boys." It turned out that the family taught 12 boys how to play, and the 2 teachers led them up to kowtow. Eunuch he ordered the people to have fun, and then handed them wine and sat down. Eunuch he personally held the cup, and Simon King said in a panic, "My dear, please do it for me. I have a senior official to do it for you. It's just a matter of placing the bell and chopsticks." Eunuch he said, "I will pass the bell to your excellency. The official in my family is new to Lu Wei. I don't know how deep it is, but I hope you can support me in everything." Simon King said, "What do you mean by that? As the saying goes, my colleagues and students also rely on my father-in-law Yu Guang." Eunuch, he said. It's easy to talk about. We work together to support each other. Simon King didn't wait for him to hand over the wine. He only took the cup and took it to the banquet. He then offered a cup in return and placed it on He Qianhu and his eunuch table. He bowed and sat down. After the playing, 3 boys from the normal school sang a set of Zhenggong, Duanzhao, visiting Jiaopu on a snowy night, and Crystal Palace Shark Tissue 10 before the banquet. Finished singing. After drinking for a few rounds, we had 2 meals, looked at the night sky, and put on the lamp. Simon King called Diana to take the rewards to the kitchen servants and play the various servants. Then he stood up and said, "The students have been harassing you for a day, so I'll go home." The father-in-law was willing to let it go and said, "I'm getting off work today and I want to talk to you, sir. There is a big banquet, but it is just for sitting down." Simon King said, "I accept this delicious meal from my husband. How can I go back and rest? I will visit Tianquan tomorrow morning. I'm going to visit the military department so that I can get my letter and register." Eunuch, he said, "Since you want to be an official with me, why don't you move your luggage to my house for 2 days? I have several small rooms in the back garden. It's very secluded, so it's more convenient to do business with officials in the morning and evening, rather than in other people's homes." Simon King said, "It's best to be here. It just makes Duke Xia feel weird and alienates him." Eunuch, he said, "Nothing to say. Nowadays, if you don't work as an official in the morning and don't sing in the evening, the Yeoman is a puppet show Yeoman, although we were colleagues with him at the beginning. Today the former official has left, and the later official has taken over the business, and he is here no reason. If he says this, he is an ignorant person. I will stay with you all night today and I won't let you go. The official has dinner and wine." I sent a few people to bring all the luggage with him immediately. He then ordered, "Clean the back garden and the west courtyard, prepare it, and set up a charcoal fire in the kang." There was a call from the hall, and Bai Nuo came down the stairs. "Agreed," Simon King said. "My husband is very kind, but the student offended Mr. Jia." Eunuch, he said, "Since he has left the Yeoman, he is no longer in his position and does not seek political advice. He is in charge of his Luan Jiaku affairs. If he can't, we will punish him. It's all over. No wonder it's your fault." Without any explanation, he sent Diane and others to have a meal, and sent several military prisoners to carry their luggage directly to Chui Zhongshu's house. Eunuch, he said, "One more thing to bother you, sir. When my official comes to his post, he wants you to look after the house for him so that he can move his family home. Now I will teach him to go with you to find a house, and then there are not many people in the family, and there are only 20 or 30 people in the house." Simon King said, "How much money do you need to pay for the house?" Eunuch, he said, "It's enough to have a house outside. Live." Simon King said, "Jialong, she can't go to Beijing. He has to live in a house. Why don't my husband live with Tianquan? This house has 7 rooms on the facade and is on the 5th floor. Entering the hall through the door, there are wing rooms on both sides, a house with antlers on the roof, a house with a flower pavilion in the back, and many houses in the surrounding area. The street is wide, so Tianquan lives there." Eunuch, he asked, "He wants a lot of money?" Simon King said, He told me that it was originally 1,300 taels, and he built a bungalow at the back and tittied up a flower pavilion. If my husband wants it, I can give him as much as he wants." Eunuch, he said, "I'll leave it to you, sir. That's the idea. I'll send someone to him today to ask for his original documents. It's rare to find this house. I'll find someone who is an official there." After a while, Diane and others were seen carrying their luggage and talking to each other. Simon King asked, "Have Bai Si and Wang Jing come here?" Diane said, "Wang Jing came first with his suitcase and luggage. There is also a sedan chair, and Bai Si was asked to guard it." Simon King Yan whispered in his ear, "That's it. I asked Father Jia to borrow the original deed of the house there." Eunuch, he wanted to take a look, so he came with Ben Si. This Diane agreed. After a while, Bai Si, wearing a green hat, and Diane took the documents back to Simon King and said, "Daddy Jia Duodua wrote, since my father-in-law wants it, how can we negotiate the price? I have brought the original documents. I have packed and added them to make money. I've paid a lot, so I'll just follow my father's advice." Simon King read the original deed in Unity personally, and saw that it said 1,200 taels on it, and said, I must have lived in this house for a few years, so it's a bit bad. Don't talk about cleaning it up. I'll pay him the original price. Na Benzi knelt down and said, It's true what master, he said. It's like 1,000-year house can be managed by 100 owners. After hearing this, Unity said, Are you from there? You are good at talking. It is said that great things happen at a small expense. Simon King said, His name is by sea. Unity said, Well, if there is no one, just be the one to get the documents for me. So just exchange the money for him. Simon said. King said, If it's tonight, we can just stay tomorrow. Unity said, I'll go in early at 5 o'clock, and the court will be held tomorrow. Why don't you just hand over the money to him today? And that's it. Simon King asked, When will you come out tomorrow? Unity asked. See, she came out to the altar, and the drums were used for sacrifice at the third watch. He returned to the palace at the first moment of Yinzhang. After serving the meal, he went out to set up court, ascended to the main hall, and congratulated the world. The next day, all the civil and military officials will have a celebration banquet. If you are appointed as an official, it will be fine. After that, Unity told He Qianhu to go to the back and take out 20 people. For ingots of large ingots arrived, carried in food boxes, and to family members were sent to escort them to Chui Zhangshu's house for delivery with Bensi and Dian. When Duke Xia saw the money coming, he was filled with joy. He immediately wrote a deed with his own hand, paid it to Bensi, and handed it over. Eunuch. He was overjoyed and rewarded Ben with 40 taels of silver, and Dian and Wang Jing with 3 taels each. Simon King said, You shouldn't reward a child for his family. Eunuch, he said, You buy money from him randomly. The 3 of them kowtowed in thanks. Eunuch, he told Simon King to take care of the food and wine, and sang to more words to Simon King. It all depends on the Lord's peripheral vision. Simon King said, It's better to look at my husband's golden face. Eunuch, he said, I hope your lordship will tell him something. If you vacate the room as soon as possible, you can send the young man to get up. Simon King said, The student must tell him to leave early and stay with him for a few days. The young man has moved to Beijing and has been sorted out. It won't be too late for Mr. Bao's family to get up. Eunuch, he said, We'll just wait until the new year. It's best to send the young man away first. It's not convenient at all. As they were talking, it was already the first watch. Simon King said, Please settle down, old man. I am not drunk anymore. He Dajian then said goodbye and went back to rest. He Qianhu taught the family music to play and sing, and had a meal with Simon King. Then got up and sent him to the back garden. There were 3 academies, terraces, lakes and mountains, bonsai flowers and trees, red candles burning high in the room, incense burning, musk cakes in the seal. It was very elegant. He Qianhu accompanied Simon King to chat, and then served tea and had a meal, then settled down and went back to the back. Simon King took off his hat and belt, and dressed and went to bed. Wang Jing and Dian were sent away, and he went to rest on the warm kang below. Simon King had a drink, so he slept beside the pillow, seeing the moonlight in the window, tossing and turning. For a long time, he could only hear the night clock. The flowers were silent, and the cold wind made the window paper make a sound, and he had been away from home for a long time. Just as he was about to call Wang Jing to come in and sleep with him, he suddenly heard a woman's voice outside the window. He immediately got out of bed, put on his shoes and socks, and quietly opened the door to look. He saw Li Pinger with misty hair and light makeup. She was wearing an old white dress that covered her snow-white body, and light yellow soft socks and Bao's shoes. She was standing under the moon with lotus steps. When Simon King saw her, he took her into the room, hugged her and cried, saying, My dear, why are you here? Li Pinger said, I came here to look for you. I have found a room for you. I came to see you today and will move in sooner or later. Simon King hurriedly asked, Where is your room? Li Pinger said, It's not far away. Go east from this street, and it's in the middle of Zhuofu Lane. After that, Simon King and Li Pinger hugged each other, made love on the bed. It was extremely pleasant. After that, he straightened his clothes and held his bun, and lingered. Li Pinger exhorted Simon King, My brother, remember not to drink too much at night, and go home early. That guy has been trying to harm you from time to time, so don't forget it." After saying this, she took Simon King's arm to see him off. When they walked out of the street, they saw the moonlight as bright as day. As expected, they turned east and passed the memorial archway. When they came to a small alley, they saw a double-leaf whiteboard door. They pointed and said, "This is my home." After saying this, they walked in with their sleeves. Simon King hurriedly pulled it forward, and suddenly realized that it was just a dream. But they saw the shadow of the moon across the window and the reflection of the branches. Simon King touched the bottom of the mattress and saw that the semen flowed all over the bed. The lingering fragrance was on the quilt, and the remaining saliva was still sweet. He was too sad to mourn. It was exactly. The jade sky was dim and the frost was all over the collar, and the faint moon in the sparse window startled the soul in the dream. "I slept so desolately that I was bored, and I hated to kill the cold chicken, but it refused to crow." Simon King woke up from the dream and couldn't fall asleep. He wished for the dawn. When the dawn came, he fell asleep again. The next morning, Hekianhu's servant got up to serve. After Simon King washed up, Hekianhu came out early to accompany him. After drinking ginger tea, he set the table and invited him to eat porridge. Simon King asked, "Why is the old man missing?" Hekianhu said, "My eunuch went in at 5 o'clock in the morning. He brought the porridge in a moment." After eating the porridge, he brought a bowl of meatballs, wontons, and egg brain soup. While eating, he ordered the horses to be prepared. Hekianhu and Simon King wore their crowns and servants and went to the military department early. After coming out, Hekianhu went home separately. Simon King went to Xiangwo Temple to pay respect to Elder Jiyan. The elder stayed to set up vegetarian food. Simon King only ate one snack and took the rest with his men. Then he got up and walked through the east street to visit Jia Longxi at Chui Zhongshu's house. As he passed by Zhoufu Lane, he saw a double whiteboard door in the middle, just like what he saw in his dream. He quietly asked Diane to ask the old lady who sells tofu next door, "What's the name of this family?" The old lady replied, "This is the family of Yuan Shihui." Simon King was amazed. When he arrived at Chui Zhongshu's house, Jia Gong was about to go out to greet people, but when he saw Simon King coming, he hurriedly ordered his attendants to lead the horse over and greet him in the hall. Going and chatting, Simon King asked Diane to take the gift, a piece of blue woven gold silk and a piece of colored satin. Jia Gong said, "I haven't greeted you yet, sir, so I'll accept your gift first. I'm very grateful for your trouble yesterday." Simon King said, "Yesterday, Eunuch mentioned looking at a house, and I asked for this house because of your status." He asked for the house deed and went to see it, and he returned the price at once. He is indeed a eunuch, and he built a bridge right away. "You are so lucky." After saying that, the two laughed. Mr. Jia said, "I haven't paid my respects to He Dianquan yet." So he asked, "He is going with the superior this time?" Simon King said, "He has decided to go with me, and his family will come later. Yesterday, his father-in-law sent me many greetings, asking you to vacate the room as soon as possible and move his family in. He is just staying in the government office for a few days now." Mr. Jia said, "I won't wait any longer. Once I find a room here, I will ask someone to move his family in. It will only take a month." After saying this, Simon King stood up and left a visiting card for Chui Zhongshu. Mr. Jia saw him off and returned to Hekianhu's house. Hekianhu had lunch waiting for him. Simon King told him all about visiting Mr. Jia. "The room has been vacated for a month. Captain," he was overjoyed and thanked him. "It shows your generosity. This emperor was born with the eyebrows of Yao and the eyes of Shun, and the shoulders of Yu and Tang. He was talented, eloquent, good at writing Mojanju, and able to write Zuji's calligraphy. He was familiar with the books of the 3 religions and the classics of the 9 classes. He was happy in the morning and happy in the evening, vaguely like Meng Shang Wang of Jianji. He loved sex and flowers, just like Chen Haoju of Jinling." He then sat on the throne, and after the web stopped blowing, all the civil and military officials held the tablets in front of their chests, bowed 5 times, and kowtowed 3 times to the steps, and presented the memorials. After that, the head official of the palace announced the imperial edict, saying, "I have been on the throne for 20 years. The Zhenyu has been completed. and the heaven has bestowed blessings. Now is the time to celebrate the restoration of the country, and I share it with you." Before he finished speaking, a minister flashed past the head of the group, his court boots stomping on the ground, and his robe sleeves fluttering in the wind. Looking at him, it was the left Prime Minister, Grand Secretary of Chongzhen Palace, and Minister of Personnel, Grand Tutor, Duke of Lu, Kai Jing. Wearing a fu hat and an elephant hat, he prostrated himself on the golden steps and said, "Long live the Emperor! Long live the Emperor! Long live the Emperor!" We, the ministers, are extremely terrified and bow our heads. We respectfully wish that since the Emperor ascended the throne for 20 years, the whole country has been peaceful and prosperous, and the heavens have shown us good fortunes. The three borders have ceased fighting forever, and all nations have come to pay homage to the heaven. The silver mountains fill the sky, and the jade capital stands tall. The precious talisman has been awarded at the Hayok, and the crimson sky is high in the Jin Palace. We, the ministers, are so lucky to live in a prosperous era, to have good friends, to always follow the wishes of the Emperor, and to always enjoy the light of the sun and the moon. We are overwhelmed by the admiration of the Emperor, and we are extremely moved. We hereby present a eulogy for your approval. After a long time, the imperial edict came down. The eulogy offered by your wise ministers shows your loyalty, and I am pleased. I decree to change the next year to the first year of Chong, and to receive the Dingming treasure on the first day of the first lunar month. There will be differences in amnesty and rewards. Master Kai accepted the order and came down. The head official of the palace passed on the imperial edict. If there is something, leave the office early and report it. If there is nothing, draw the curtain and leave the court. Before he finished speaking, a man came out of the office, both with his tablet inverted, and knelt on the golden steps with a red robe and a jade belt and a goldfish. He said, "Guanglu Dafu, the Grand Tutor of the Jinwu Guard, and the Grand Tutor of the Tai Wei, and the Grand Tutor of the Crown Prince, Zhu Ji, led the 26 judicial officials of the country, including Zhang Long, to be investigated as required. The changes and replacements have been made, and the replacement notes have been handed in. They should be reported. I dare not take the initiative, please let the Emperor decide." So the 26 judicial officials all knelt behind. Soon, the imperial edict came down. According to the rules, receive them. Tai Weizhu accepted the edict and came down. The Emperor spread his sleeves, and all the officials dispersed, and he immediately returned to the palace. All officials went out from the Duanli gate in two parts. The 12 elephants left without waiting to be led, and the town commanders and their long followers dispersed one after another. Outside the court gate, carriages and horses were crisscrossed, and guards were lined up. People shouted. The sea was boiling and the waves were rolling. Horses neighed, and the mountains collapsed and the ground cracked. All the judicial officials came out of the court and mounted their horses, and came to the Yamen to serve. After a long time, Jian came with a seal and said, "The master will not enter the Yamen. He has gone to the residences of Master Kai and Master Li to pay winter respects." With this, all the officials dispersed. Simon King and He Qian returned home. Another night passed, and on the next day, he received a note from the Yamen, registered again, and said goodbye to Steward Sai, packed up his clothes, packed his luggage, and left with He Qian. Uniki held a farewell banquet in the evening and told He Qian, "Ask Master Simon for advice on everything. Don't be self-reliant. It's impolite." Starting from Tokyo on November 20th, there were 20 people from both families who followed him and went to Shandong Avenue. It was the coldest time of the year, when the water was freezing, and along the way, there were some desolate roads, dead trees, and jackdaws. The sparse forests cast a faint shadow of the sun, and evening snow and frozen clouds obscured the evening crossing. One mountain has not yet ended, and another mountain is coming. The village behind has passed and the village in front is visible. Just after crossing the Yellow River and arriving at the Shuguan Bajiao town, a strong wind suddenly rose from the sky. I saw. It was not the roar of a tiger, nor the roar of a dragon. The cold wind suddenly hit my face, and the cold air invaded me. At first, there was no trace, but later, the fog and clouds rolled up. The flowers and willows were blown white, and the stones were blown and the sand was flying. The big tree roared repeatedly, and the lone goose fell into the deep moat in shock. In a moment, sand and stones hit the ground, and dust covered the sky. The sand and stones hit the ground. Just like a sudden rainstorm, the dust covered the sky, like millions of pixiu rolling in. Is this wind strong? It really blew down the tree in front of the gate of hell. And the dust on the top of Fengdu was in chaos. Chang'e hurriedly closed the toad official, and Lizzie called for help from the sky. The Jade Emperor almost couldn't stay on the top of Kunlun, and the earth was shaken up and down. Simon King and He Qian, who were sitting into felt curtained sedan chairs, which were blown by the wind and made it difficult for them to move. Seeing that it was getting dark, Simon King was afraid that he would bump into someone in the deep forest. So he ordered his men, quickly find a place to rest for a night, and go again tomorrow when the wind dies down. After searching for half a day, they saw an ancient temple on the side of the road from a distance, with a few sparse willows and a half-walled horizontal wall. But they saw the stone monument was covered by green grass, and the corridors and ancient halls were half-tilted. There was no light in the night, and it was even more regrettable to meditate in the moonlight. Simon King and He Qian, who hurriedly went to the temple to stay overnight, which was inscribed with Wang Long Temple. They saw several monks meditating in the abbot's room, and there was no light. The houses were all destroyed and half covered with fences. The elder came out to ask questions, and then blew a fire to make tea, and cut grass roots to feed the horses. After making tea, Simon King brought dried chicken, bacon, fruit cakes and other things in his bag. And He Qian, who had a casual meal in the evening. The elder cooked a pot of bean porridge and ate it, and spent the night. The next day, the wind stopped and the sky cleared. He gave the monk a tael of silver as a thank you, and said goodbye and left for Shandong. It is exactly, I am not afraid of the hard work of rushing to the king's affairs, and I have to travel through mountains and rivers to the capital. There is no smoke or fire in the ancient temple at night, which relieves the anxiety of the travelers. After dinner, the two were playing chess in the hall when a servant came to report. Sai Dad from the mansion sent someone to send Chang. He found Old Man Chui, and Old Man Chui sent him here, so he took the note and read it. It said, I am sending you a piece of gold satin, a piece of cloud silk, a mouthful of fresh spick, a body of northern sheep, a jar of wine, and 2 boxes of snacks. Your family member Jin bows his head in respect. Simon King saw the person and said, Thank you for your trouble, Mr. Zai. He accepted the gift, wrote a reply, rewarded the person who came with 2 taels of silver, and the person who carried the box with 5 cents, and said, It is inconvenient to be a guest, so I have to disrespect the housekeeper. The man kowtowed and accepted it. Wang Jing whispered, My younger sister told me to go to the mansion to see IG and bring her something. Simon King asked, What is it? Wang Jing said, 2 pairs of shoes made at home. Simon King said, How can I take them alone? He told Diane, I have rose cakes in my suitcase. Take 2 jars. Then he gave the note to Wang Jing, put on his green clothes, and followed the visitor to the mansion to see IG. Simon King wrote a note, sent a sheep and a jar of wine to thank Shui Zhangshu, and carried a pig, a jar of wine, and 2 boxes of snacks to the back to show his filial piety to the old man. He Qian, who thanked him and said, Sir, you and I are one family. Why are you so fussy? Let's say Wang Jing went to the mansion and invited Han Iji out to meet her in the outer hall. She was dressed like a jade tree in the forest, which was different from her appearance at home. She has grown up a lot. After asking about the affairs of the family, he served wine and food. Seeing that Wang Jing was thin, he gave him a sky blue silk mink coat and 5 taels of silver, and took it to reply to Simon King's question. Simon King was overjoyed. He was playing chess with He Qian, who when he suddenly heard a voice. The doorman came to report, Old Man Gio is here to visit. Bring in 2 visiting cards. The 2 hurriedly greeted him in the hall to exchange greetings. He Qian, who thanked him again for the house yesterday. Mr. Jia prepared 2 silk handkerchiefs and wine gifts to congratulate the 2 gentlemen. Simon King and He Qian, who thanked them again and ordered the attendants to accept them. Mr. Jia also rewarded Ben Si, Diane, and Wang Jing with 10 taels of silver. And then the host and guests sat down. After drinking tea, they talked about the warmth of the people. Mr. Jia said, Please see the old man. He Qianhu said, "My eunuch has gone inside." Mr. Jia left another double red visiting card and said, "Please send it to the old man. I'm sorry for being late." After speaking, he got up and left. He Qianhu also prepared a gift, a piece of gold satin, and sent someone to deliver it. In the evening, He Qianhu set up wine in the warm pavilion in the garden and drank with Simon King, singing, and went to bed at the second watch. Because of the dream yesterday, Simon King asked Wang Jing to bring bedding to the study to sleep on the floor. He called him to bed in the middle of the night and hugged him in the quilt. The two of them spit cloves from their mouths, and their tongues melted with sweet saliva. It was just like this. If I can't meet Ying Yang, I will take Hong Yang to satisfy my craving. It was written one night. The next day, I got up at the fifth watch and followed He Qianhu and his party into the court. First, I went to the waiting room to serve, and waited for the Donghua gate to open and enter. But I saw, the stars are faintly visible, and the rings and pendants in the palace are ringing. If you want to know whether the emperor is happy today, you can see the purple air of Penglai from afar. After a while, I heard the 9-layered gates open, and the sound of phoenixes chirping. The gates of heaven opened, and I saw the majestic imperial robes. At that time, the emperor had returned from the southern suburbs after offering sacrifices, and all the civil and military officials gathered to wait for the opening of the court. Soon, the bell rang, and the emperor drove out of the hall to receive the congratulations of all the officials. Soon, the incense ball turned, and the curtains and fans opened. It was exactly on a sunny day. The blue locked door opened, and the wind blew down the imperial incense. Thousands of auspicious mists floated in the golden palace, and a red cloud held the jade emperor.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.